Welcome to Built for This. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe. My podcast features captivating conversations with intriguing people who have found purpose in their lives through their career, family, or life experiences, and just why they were built for this. Through the stories that you will hear, I trust that you will be inspired and encouraged to find just what you were built for. So let's get started. And welcome again into the studio for another episode of Built for This. And it's a truly a great honor to have my guest here today. He is a filmmaker and the producer and director of Vindication, the series that you may be following on your favorite streaming platform. But Jarod O'Flaherty is my guest today. Jarod, thank you for jumping in and being on the show today.
Yeah, Brian, thank you for the invite.
Talk before we get into, if people haven't discovered or found Vindication, I want to talk about that here. Well, let's just start there. Talk a little bit about how that idea of the series came to you. I know that you're heavily involved in the writing, producing, and directing of that as a filmmaker. But when people have found it through various streaming platforms, it's been a long time in the making to get it put together. But how did the idea of Vindication come about for you?
Sure. In 2015, I had just finished up doing a feature film through our church. There's some churches out there that have done this in the past and had them in theaters and been successful, and our church did that. And I've always told people it ended up being better than it ever should have been. I'm not saying it's good, not saying it's great. It was better than it should have been. Yeah. And anyway, so when that film process was over, we kind of had some funds left over from ticket sales and DVD sales and those sort of things, T-shirts. And that money had sat around for a little while, and I thought, I wonder what the next step would be, because we did it kind of on an all-volunteer basis. We didn't have professional actors or crew or anything. It was just volunteers from the church. And so I thought, it'd be great to do a short film, but hire professionals and work with professional actors, professional crew. But what are we going to do? And my wife was big into crime dramas at that time. I don't watch much television. And she was watching one night, and I noticed that the formula for it was always the same. They would start off with the crime. You would see that. Then they would do an investigation, usually go down a couple rabbit trails, each finding some people you thought it might be, then it's not. And then at the end, they'd have a resolution. I thought, it'd be interesting to do one of those, but as the investigation is going on, you don't know who did it, but you also don't know exactly what the crime is. So you're trying to figure out both things as you watch. And so that idea, along with the funds that I mentioned, created this short film called Vindication. And that's where it began. Never had the ideas of becoming a series or anything beyond that. It was, again, just a short film, kind of exploratory of what it would be like to work with professionals. And we did the festival circuit for about a year. And at the very end, we're going to just kind of put it out on YouTube, move on to something else. And a distribution company came to us and said, hey, we really like this. We'd like to distribute it. And could you do another one? Could you do more? And I'm like, well, the story's over. What are you talking about? Well, what we did at that point became Vindication 2. And they said, the detective in your story, could he not investigate another case? Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And so from that, a series was birthed. And as we sit here today, we've got 4 seasons of it, 36 episodes. If you go back and watch that first one, you can tell there wasn't a lot of foresight of this becoming a series. It was just a standalone film. Even the first 2 were like that. And so it's hard now for new audiences to jump in and have this pilot that just grabs them. Oh, I'm going to watch 36 episodes, because at that time, we just didn't have that idea or vision. But I don't know how much you've seen of it, but it certainly starts there, but each episode grows on the one before it until you get, 6-8 episodes in, and you're like, okay, I'm hooked on this now.
Yeah. And we'll talk about where you are in the series right now. But Flyrock Media, is that when that was birthed, after you did the first one for the church, and then you might think, did you think at that time, well, I might need to put a company together and start thinking about developing things like this?
Yeah, Flyrock was born around the time. That's my company. Yeah. It's Flyrock Media, because media can be many things. It can be a website. It can be a written press, paper materials. It can be film. It can be music. There's so many ways to convey a message over a medium, and that's what media means. And so Flyrock was involved in that film. We've done web development, web applications, those sort of things. And so when Vindication started picking up and gaining steam, obviously I stayed involved as that.
I want to talk to you about you yourself in the love and I guess the drive of becoming a filmmaker. When did you discover in your heart that, wow, I'm pretty captivated by this whole process of making a film? And what was it that really captured you, that pull you into this industry?
You could look back, and there's a video of me at Thanksgiving when I was 5 years old, and I had a couple cousins with me, and we were putting on some type of little play or performance, and my aunt and uncle had a great big giant VHS camcorder with the blinking red light on the front of it, and you have to mount it on your shoulder to hold this thing. There's a video of me doing that, and I'm kind of the one that's directing it and performing in it at the same time. And that was from, again, when I was 5 years old. I don't remember much before then at all, and yet here I am doing this. And while we have the video of it, I can vaguely remember being there and doing that day. Yeah. And so I guess I was always interested. And there's me as a little boy, I say in this video, I go, it's fun to be in front of a TV camera, is what I called it. So I guess it started very young. And then a few years later, probably about 5 years later, my family bought a VHS camcorder, and I was making things and doing it. So for whatever reason, it's just kind of been built into my DNA, anatomy, whatever, that to be interested in recording things and being able to play them back.
Then to move into professionally speaking, though, was the genesis of that started at that church project when you thought, I think I want to get into do more serious things like that?
It wasn't so much with the film, but it was at the church. Yeah. And so when I graduated high school, I got a laptop for my graduation gift, and shortly after I bought a camera. And this was around the time of DV, digital video, where you could take it from your tape onto the computer, edit it, things that weren't really accessible in the consumer world up to that point or around that time. Yeah. With the tech boom that was happening. And so I started filming events at the church, youth events, retreats, ministry weekends, those type of things, editing them together. And then I had an audience, because the people of the church would then watch back and see what happened. If they sent their teenagers off to youth camp for a week, prior to that time, they really never knew what was going on.
What happened?
Kids would come home and they would be tired but excited about what went on. And so I would start going with these camps and would film everything, bring it back, and have an audience of several hundred people that would watch this story being told. It was the story of the week at camp. And so I did that for close to a decade. And at the end of that time is when the opportunity to make the film came about.
Wow. This show, this podcast is heavily purpose driven. When you take on a project, when you take on a film or an opportunity that's been written or something that you've written, how intentional are you that you're delivering some sort of purpose message to your audience?
I kind of aim to do that in all areas of life.
Sure.
Whether I'm doing a podcast with someone or going to lunch with someone or helping a person fix a tire on the whatever it may be, although I haven't done that recently, but just an example, right?
Right.
Whatever you're doing, that's just, if your whole life has a purpose, you know that you've got a timer that's ticking down on how long you get to be here. And so doing things for purpose instead of just to fill time, it's kind of something I do everywhere. So I can't say that I just, sit around and go, man, I need purpose. Oh, hey, I'm going to go make a film. That's my new, it's just kind of like naturally in anything that I am to do that.
Yeah. All right. Vindication. Let's talk about that. That's what people are watching and streaming it and following it everywhere. There's obviously a heavy faith-based message within that. How important was that for you to make sure that that's in there?
Well, like I just in the previous answer said, that's kind of always about purpose for me. But it's always been important to me that I don't say, hey, I'm going to go take a message or a sermon or a Bible verse and try to wrap some type of story around it so that people will watch it. Well, they'll swallow it, right? It's like you're taking a pill and you wrap it in a piece of bread or put it with some, it's like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I want to go tell a good story that they want to watch regardless, and that's just going to be a part of it naturally. Someone once said it's telling good stories in a world that God exists, and that as simple as that, as opposed to preaching sermons in the form of a TV show, right? Mm-hmm. And so that part has always been important to me. I love it when I'll hear from people. I can think of one a lady worked on our set for many of the shoots, and she said, me and my boyfriend, we sat down to watch it. He got like 8 episodes in, and it was kind of like, is this a faith-based show? And she's like, yeah. He didn't realize
Had no idea.
As he was watching all of this. It was just a good show. He's like, I noticed they kind of prayed a lot or mentioned God every once in a while, but he didn't realize that was it. And I've taken that as a great compliment. That's kind of been the goal, because if you're so out front and it looks like propaganda, that really turns people off. And so it's you can definitely get across what you want to be said without it having to be so in your face.
All right, going back to that when you first made the first Vindication. And you were saying, okay, this is just kind of a project, and here it is. We put it together. We don't have professional actors, and it did it. How did your approach change all of a sudden when you were approached by having the opportunity that, well, let's do something else with it? There are more stories, and now let's use a professional cast and some different things. Did it change your approach any with how you as a director, producer come to it?
It did. So our first episode of Vindication, we did have professional actors that came in. It was the church film beforehand. That was not. So obviously there was a big change of me learning what it's like to work with professionals, the speed of which they do things, and what their expectations are. I could tell some funny stories from that. I won't, because I want to answer your question.
No, I'd love to hear the funny stories.
We can go back if you want to.
Yeah.
But as far as once we got to episode 3 and 4, our order at that point was for 2 episodes, where the 1 and 2 were just single episodes. That's when I realized, hey, this could turn into a series, and I've got to start doing things that make people want to watch the next episode. So we introduced some recurring characters, some additional characters. We introduced kind of some themes and storylines that make you want to follow those characters, but then also put some mini cliffhangers at the end of each episode so that you would have that desire to continue watching.
Yeah.
The first 2 episodes, it was just, make something good that people will sit and watch that one. So when it got to a series, there was a different approach of wanting it to be something people would be engaged for many episodes or seasons.
Right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that, about developing that storyline. And I was able to see at the premiere of the most recent one that you released. But as you got past the first 2 episodes, as a filmmaker, you're having to think about on so many different levels, camera shots, angles, storylines, character development, that kind of thing. How has that helped you grow as a filmmaker when it went from just those maybe 2 individual episodes to, like you just mentioned, that this could be a series, and now I've got to think at this a whole different level?
I personally approach each project with, I want this to be the best thing I've ever done. So that means it's got to be better than the one before. So where are areas that I can improve, whether it's the storytelling, whether it's the camera, the picture, whether it's sound, music, anywhere. What can we do to keep moving forward? And some of those I just mentioned. I have teammates, people that have worked on Vindication that have been a part of it for a long, long time, and they all started like at the top. They were really good to begin with. So it was me having to, okay, how can I get better to make this project improve a little bit? So that's how I go into it. Each one is a new opportunity to do the best thing I've ever done, better than the one before. But once you've done 36 of them, or you kind of go, okay, I've used up a lot of the areas that I feel like I can improve. So what do we have to do now to just go to the next level? But it's a great goal. It gives you the push. And so that's kind of been my approach.
So for the people that are maybe just getting on the Vindication bandwagon, talk about your cast a little bit. You have some great individual cast members in some of the leading roles. If people have followed along for the seasons, but what have you learned about their development and how to work with them as a producer or director?
Yeah. Well, obviously we've had probably 300 or so speaking roles throughout the series. Cast members that I have, some of them auditioned, some of them it's just a direct offer because I knew them from other projects. So that they've all come from different ways. Some have been I knew about them, reached out to them on social media and said, hey, would you want to be a part of this project? Others come through the traditional channels of they have an agent, their agent submits them for the project, they audition against oftentimes hundreds of other people that have submitted, and then when we get to the end and say, yeah, this is the one we want. So they've all come from different places. One of the most interesting ones, Todd Terry, our lead character, which he's got a nice resume of projects all of your listeners have heard of. He's done lots of big stuff and been on the big screen. And I was at an event here locally for Christian filmmakers, Christian people in the arts, and they had a panel on actors. And at that point, this was before Vindication, so I'd never worked with any professional actors before. And so I go up to him and say, hey, what does it take for a guy like you to want to be involved in a project of maybe some more amateur beginning? We do a good job, but we're not quite there yet. And he said, well, I look at every project, the script and who's involved, and just examine it and decide if it's something to be a part of. So it sure doesn't hurt to send it my way and have me take a look at it. So he did come in as the detective in our first episode. He agreed to do it. It was funny at the time, I didn't think anything of it. The detective was kind of like, the third or fourth character in the cast. So when you watch the first episode, his name doesn't come up in the credits until way down the list. He's just the guy who's kind of, keeping the story flowing as the detective. He asks the questions.
Yeah.
And so the next one, when it came up, we're going to follow him. Of all these characters, he's the one that we're going to follow to the next day, the next episode. And so he got to come back, and we've just been blessed. And it's blessed to have him with us because he's so good. Everything we have thrown at him over the years, he has just nailed it, whether it's emotional scenes, whether it's taking down a bad guy, whatever, like anything we can do, he's been able to just deliver it in an exceptional way. And we hear it from audiences all the time. He never auditioned for it. It was just, that's the guy I met at that one meeting. Let's have him come be a part of our project.
Wow.
And then it turns into, he is the lead that we, the foundation that we build everything on, and the one consistent that's been in every episode.
You mentioned, or you were talking about to our local listeners and everything, this is a show that is shot in the North Texas area. And talk about that a little bit, about how this area of the country, North Texas, and a number of scenes are shot in Denton, Texas. The premiere of the last season is here. What about, how important is it, or what do you talk about the development of this area growing to be an attractive place for filmmakers?
Yeah. Well, Vindication is not set in a big city. It's not meant to be in New York, Chicago, LA, like most crime shows are, right?
Yeah,
they're usually in one of the big cities, and you get these exciting crimes. And that ours is set in what's meant to be small town, West Texas, just a little town. And I feel like those towns are what a majority of our country, what their lives look like. The hubs have a lot of people in them, but there's a whole lot of other people that their life doesn't look like the daily life in New York City. Yeah. And so, like, hey, let's tell a cop show that's in a smaller town where you know everybody, where there's the local diner that everyone goes to, and those sort of things. Maybe a little bit slower pace, but also different types of crimes and events that take place. And so in doing that, Dallas-Fort Worth definitely has the big city stuff, but it's also got lots of suburbs and cities surrounding it that gave us opportunities to get those sets without having to transport our whole cast and crew 200 miles away out into one of those small towns. So it's given us great variety. Now we do have some episodes in a season where, hey, I'm going to go to the big city, and we've got that available as well. So Dallas-Fort Worth being, I know it's a top 5 metropolitan area, but it's also on the outskirts. You can get that country feel. It gives us what we need filming wise. And of course, I'm from here. A lot of our cast is from here. So it just makes sense to shoot it in this part of Texas as opposed to going somewhere else. Now, I will say, there's one negative that comes up, maybe two, and actually they're just the same thing, but different times a year. Yeah. And that's the Texas heat.
Ooh,
Anyone's been on a film set, when you get in a nice air-conditioned building and you're ready to film, what does the sound crew say? All right, turn off the air conditioners.
Right.
We don't want...
Can't hear that.
Yeah. So the air conditioners go off, and you can be in a room and go, well, we've got it down to 60 degrees right now. It's not going to get hot. And you turn those ACs off and have... 20 or 30 bodies in a room, and immediately
lighting,
it gets hot and sweaty in a hurry. And there were some that we shot in August in Texas.
I remember.
And I kind of said, we're not doing that anymore. Like, how do we schedule? We have 2 blocks in the year. The other one, I said there were 2 things. The other one is the unpredictable winter weather. You can have beautiful days that are 70 and perfect filming weather, but then 2 days later, it's ice everywhere and your whole production is shut down. So, so that's hard to schedule as well, because it just can be so unpredictable. If you knew what it was going to be for the week, for the most part, you can prepare, but it's so volatile here. That part of it is not, it takes several months out of the year from film schedules.
As a filmmaker for this area, finding site locations but just other assets or other amenities that this area might provide. I mean, you have universities, you have various talents, a film commission, and different kind of things. It's that all of those elements play into you when you maybe look outside of some things that you might need for a particular film.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of started here, and so I don't know that we've ever explored, oh, what if we filmed somewhere else? To me in the writing process, I know what we have available in this area.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to write things that fit that.
Yeah.
We had a scene that was up on top of a bridge where someone was looking off, and we knew, we've got, 4, 5, 6 options nearby that we could use for that. Because you also have to think, if you're going to go film something on a bridge, are they shutting down that bridge for traffic? Or are you going to have to guerrilla style it and go up there during a slow time and hope for the best? Yeah, and all that. And of course, in the writing process, also know we're not going to have much time up on the bridge. So let's not have 2 characters have 4 pages of dialogue on a bridge. We're not going to write that. So, but back to your question about the area, as far as assets and resources, a lot of the writing process, what's available. I haven't had anything of people hiking up a mountain because we don't have that really in Dallas-Fort Worth. You could probably make do with a few areas, but that's not something we have. So I'm not going to write for that. But the stuff that we do have, then utilize it as best as possible.
For people, Jarod, and again, we're talking with Jarod O'Flaherty, a filmmaker for the Vindication series. I invite you to find that on your streaming platform. But and we had a chance to meet on the set when you were shooting some earlier episodes in the series. But how would you encourage someone that maybe would want to follow in your footsteps and get into the film industry and discover things like you did, which you kind of discovered it very organically through your church, and then your passion was already there. But there's a lot of people that have creative minds that want to follow this. So what do you tell young to-be filmmakers that want to do this kind of thing?
I start by telling them that times are changing, and they're changing rapidly. If you go find a book that was printed in the early 2000s of how to make a film, how to be a filmmaker or whatnot, it's going to give you information that just isn't relevant any longer. Things change. Now that there's also some benefits in that, right? To get seen all over the world, you don't have to find a distribution company to pick you up anymore. Everyone has access to streaming platforms that will stream your stuff, YouTube being the one that we all know about.
Yeah.
You can have a worldwide audience instantly just by doing that. To get high quality cameras and sound, that's not hard anymore either. Most everyone carries a smartphone, and it puts out a better picture than what the high-end cinema cameras were doing just a decade or so ago. So everyone has access to those things now. And so what may have been told before is how you have to jump over this big hurdle to get into the industry. You need your film degree and connections and those sort of things. That's not true. You just need to have some good ideas and some willpower to go out and make something. My advice would be, so I've just said, you've got a way to get it out to an audience and you've got a way to shoot it. The next thing is just to know what you're doing. And the best way to do that is go watch the things that you enjoy and dissect what they are doing. A good way to do that is to mute it. So that way you're not getting caught up in the story, and look and say, where's the camera at for this shot? How many shots or cameras can you see in this scene? There may be one of your favorite scenes in a film, something impact you emotionally or powerfully, and you look and realize as you're breaking it down, oh, they only had 2 cameras on this, or they shot this whole thing with 1 camera and 1 angle. It was a wide angle. And so as you start doing that, you'll learn how others are doing things successfully, how they have a proven track record of how to film things. And then you'll learn for your own, so that when you take your cell phone out and you go shoot something, you'll know, how do I want to shoot it? What scenes do I want to follow in their footsteps to make it work? And so, and just doing it and having fun with it instead of talking about it all the time. Hey, let me go call this guy and ask him what he did. Let me go read a book on this. No, just go do it. And it's going to be terrible what you put out at the beginning. You're not going to like it. It's not going to meet your vision, but at least you're stepping forward. And just like my formula from earlier, then your next project, you're going to want it to be a little bit better, and then a little bit better. And that's the way to do it, I think, as opposed to what traditional answers might be of going to film school or, go to the film festivals and those sort of things, because a lot of that is changing.
I think people would probably find it very fascinating to know what the behind the scenes is all about. And I had that opportunity. I don't know if you remember when you were shooting one of the early scenes in Crum, Texas, at a facility there, and it was they had closed it. It was shooting late at night. You needed a night scene. I think the shoot was scheduled for 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. or some incredible hours. But talk a little bit about how, as a director, you have to be so attuned to so many details and make sure everything is just right. And I think I was there for just as an observer to see how you were shooting a number of scenes, and it was, I think, 5 hours on the set, but yet so many things repeated. They, maybe Todd was walking in, and okay, let's get him walking a different direction, and now let's get him look at a different angle. But the details that go into making a film, I think people would be just astounded at the time it takes and the attention to what you're looking at as the director.
Yeah, and it takes time and experience to get the answers to that. I'll admit what I knew on the very first episode compared to what I know now. It just took going through those experiences. Now, to give you just a high level of that, for me as a director, you have to know, what do I need to get right now so that in the end, after post-production, I can have the final product that I envision or as close to it as possible, right? And having been through the process many times, you kind of know what that answer is. So some directors may see something and go, hey, that was perfect. That's what I need. Let's move along. But me having been through the process many times will know, well, let's get a few other things just to cover our bases in case you get into the editing bay, into post-production, and that's not what you needed. So I'm always watching for those things. Now, that can be performance. That can be different camera angles. That can be making sure the background, the day you're talking about, two things I remember there is one, we were next to a train track.
That's right.
So if we start filming a scene and then a train shows up towards the second half of it, whether the performance was incredible or not, we still at least need to get that second half of it again without a train, without a train driving through. I think most people would recognize that one.
Yeah.
Well, there was another scene that same day where you talked about our main character, Gary Travis, Todd Terry playing him, was walking up to this location prior to the bigger events that happened. And as he was walking up, we would be filming, and a few times I would see a car drive by in the background, something we had no control over. The road wasn't shut down.
Yes.
So we would get one of him walking up and everything would be great, but there'd be two cars driving by. And I just thought, well, one, that's going to be distracting to the audience. And two, they're supposed to be in the middle of nowhere late at night. In post-production, am I going to be able to edit out those cars, or would it be better to say, hey, let's get one more and hope we get lucky that no cars drive by? And so we would do that 2 or 3 times to get that one, because you get to the editing bay and you go, oh, I love everything about this, but those cars don't make any sense based on the storyline we put in. He's supposed to be alone and in a
desolate area.
Desolate area. You can't have cars driving by. That doesn't make sense. So that's just an example. The train's a big one. Everybody gets that. But then those lights of the type of things you're looking for. And then it's performance. I have learned as a director, the worst thing you can do is go out there and shoot something 5 times and all 5 of them are the exact same. When you get to editing, you have no choices now. So you may have one where it's, hey, come in and I want you to be scared. And then come into the next one and you're in a hurry. And then the next one, come in and say you're angry. That's very basic direction. You like to give a little better than that, but that gives your audience an idea of the type of things. So that way, when you get into the editing, you can find the one that best fits what's going on in the story. Have you had to,
I'm fascinated by that last part, have you had to give too much direction or coaching to actors on certain performances that they need to do, or does it depend on the level of the experience that the actor is bringing to the script and to the set?
We have been very fortunate to have incredible actors all throughout. Even the people that show up and just deliver a line, hey, your food's here, or something like that, have all been so good that there's usually not that they're delivering a bad performance and I need to pick it up. Right? They're gifted. It's more of what is needed in this scene, or maybe there's something in the story they perhaps weren't quite understanding.
Right.
And so direction I may give, instead of going up and go, hey, do the same scene but angry. That's poor direction. Hey, do this but sad, right? Is I'll go up to him, I'll say, okay, I want you to, imagine you just drove 2 hours in the car here. You haven't eaten all day. You're very tired. You don't know what's about to happen out here in this location. This morning when you got up, your dog had spilt dog food all over the house and you didn't get to clean it. Just try to paint a picture for them of what brings them to that moment and say, and now I want to see that. And so it gives them more depth and more understanding of what's going on, So, or you go and tell them, you say, hey, you're only planning to be here for about 30 seconds. You're just going to pop out, look around and go. So keep that in mind. And so those are 2 different directions I just shared with you, that you could film the same scene with each of those as the background. And so that's going to get a different performance out of them.
Using kind of a sports analogy, I guess, do you, when you're shooting scenes, do do you have to kind of play the part of I guess a football coach where you're thinking 8-10 plays ahead of what they're doing, but as a director, you're shooting that scene, but are you always thinking 2 or 3 scenes ahead, or okay, I really need them to do this because in 4 scenes this is what needs to be happening?
Yes,
you looking ahead?
Absolutely, and that's your job as the director, is to see that high level. Sometimes you'll have maybe an actor who's only going to be there for one scene, okay? And they come in, they want to deliver a fabulous performance for you. Maybe it's a scene they even have the opportunity to get emotional in, okay? And they come in and, man, they lay it out, and everyone on set's clapping, and whoa, that was incredible. But you as the director realize, in this 30-minute episode, that is not supposed to be the emotional moment.
Over-the-top scene.
Where the music swells and the audience is, tearing up. That's not supposed to be that moment. Yes, it's emotional, but it's not the one. So I actually need to come in there and tell them to kind of bring it down, maintain their composure so that it fits the overall story the way it's supposed to.
Wow.
So you can understand the actor's perspective. They see the scene and go, hey, this is the award-winning scene.
They're bringing it all.
Do everything and bring it. And the crew too, they're like, oh, but as a director, you're the one that has to understand the flow of the story. Because if that scene happens in the first 5 minutes of an episode, nobody's eyes are welling up with tears in the first 5 minutes. Even if it's a mother that just lost her child, or something of that nature, this isn't going to be that moment. Now they obviously have to be sad and emotional, but it's not the over the top. So that's just one idea, like you said, of looking ahead of what's coming next. I'll also say from a production standpoint, you can get on set, like the night that you were there, I remember in particular, I know ahead of time how many scenes we have to get shot and how much time we have to do it, right? And so if you go in and you shoot a scene, that didn't feel right. That's not what it's supposed to be. Let's try it again. Oh, that wasn't it either. Let's try it. Okay, we're getting there. And, you keep trying it and trying to improve, but
you're using time.
You also have to realize I've still got 8 other scenes tonight or 5 other scenes we have to shoot tonight before the sun comes up, right? And so I have to make some quick decisions sometimes on, is this good enough, or do we really need to go through another one? I didn't know if you were going to put me on spot earlier and say, have you ever over-directed or done too much? And the few times that I think I have with some of our leads that they've come up to me and said, hey, Jarod, you're giving me too much. It's usually because I'm thinking about time. We don't have time to try this 8 different times. I have to come and tell you exactly the 3 things that need to change. But for an actor to change 3 things at once, that feels like you're putting me in 3 different directions. Which one do I do? So I'm thinking about time, going, we don't have time and we're not there yet. So here's the 3 notes, but to them, it can be difficult to process 3 things at once. Like, well, which one do you want? So
Well, how much latitude do you give the photographers, so the people running your cameras for it? I mean, you're giving them direction. Okay, we're going to get a close up here. I want you to follow this character here. But I'm just kind of fascinated, and for our listeners and viewers that are really diving into the behind the scenes of this, do you give them latitude to, like, okay, be creative in kind of the shot you're going to give me? Of course, if you don't like it, you can shoot it again. But do you give them that kind of thing, their creativity to be a part of this?
Well, I have a great relationship with our cinematographer. His name is Ron Gonzalez, and we've worked together on every episode of Vindication. So a very common answer to that question is we'll arrive on set for a scene, and either he will ask it or I will ask it. We'll ask the question, so what do you see here? And if he's the camera I'm the director, I'm asking him, our camera, our cinematographer, what do you see here? Meaning, what shots do you think we should get? How do you want to cover it? How, where do we want to set up? Other times he'll come to me and he'll say, okay, Jarod, so what do you see here? So we have this great relationship where, and it's not like it's planned of who's going to ask the question. It's kind of natural. And there's some, because we work together so much, we don't even have to ask that. We just walk up and we go, he'll be like, this is pretty standard? Yeah, this is pretty standard. So, or I'll say, hey, you got any like ideas in your back pocket that we could pull out for this one to make it a little more interesting, a little more intriguing? A scene of a husband and wife laying in bed having a conversation with each other. You may shoot from one side and the other side may be a wide shot where you see both of them. But we look and the bed's got like the canopy over the top. So it's like, hey, do we mount a camera up above? And you look down and you can slide it back and forth. And so that's one that, on the day of, we may say, hey, what do you see here? Or, let's put a track all the way around the bed. So we're talking about a scene in a bed, but it's just a conversation.
No, that's all right.
Christian show. So anyway,
Visualize it.
we're going to put a track around it and have it just kind of moving around as they're having this conversation or whatnot. So those are the type of ideas, and sometimes they come from him, sometimes from me, but we've just had a great relationship to keep scenes interesting, not just of what's happening, but how they're shot.
Just talking to you, I can hear the passion in what you do. What has been what's been the biggest challenge though for you once you really dove into this feet first and say this is my career, this is who I am, I want to make meaningful films. But for you personally, are there any big kind of moments that's like, I need to get through this, or this is a challenge, and maybe it became an impetus to become something great for you? Yeah,
the challenge. That drive I mentioned early on about making each thing better, right? There's a cost that comes along with that. And if your budget's not going up, then what's going to make up that gap, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not one that wants to ask other people to, hey, I can only pay you the same, but can you do twice as much? I try not to. Now, a lot of our team, they believe in the project and they would say yes to that.
Yeah.
But and it has been asked occasionally, but not much. Anyway, to make up that gap, to make it better, if you got the same budget and you don't want to ask anything else, it's effort on my part, right? It's more time in the editing bay. It's finding ways to improve. And so there's a cost on our side. Well, that's less time with the family, more later hours, more work on my side. And so you end up doing that over 2 seasons. All right, I poured out everything I gave as much as I can all the time. I'm at the red line, we're about to blow the engine, right?
Yeah.
And then the order comes in for a season 3 and your budget got a 5 to 10% boost, So, okay, that's going to make it better. But once again, you're going to go to the red line trying to push everything you can. And that's a 18-month to 2-year process.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, hey, here's the order for season 4. So you can see how you keep pushing and growing and you run out of areas. There's definitely a cost on the personal side, family side. I mean, go look at the family histories of a lot of directors, and you'll see lots of marriages, lots of divorces, and things in there. And it's a demanding and taxing profession to be involved in.
And I know that's where your faith comes in to push you through that. But the rewards for you, we just talked about the challenges, but the rewards you're, I guess, experiencing and enjoying. You've talked about a lot of it right there, working with certain cast members and the cinematographer that you worked with for years and years, building relationships with this business. Is that the rewarding side of it that you see for yourself?
It is, yeah, definitely the relationships, the memories made, seeing people proud of the work or excited about it. When we put a trailer out and people are, sharing all sorts of compliments and they want everyone that they know to see it. So they're proud of what has been accomplished. That's definitely a rewarding part of it. Hearing from random strangers, they're like, this is my favorite show I've ever seen, even more so. And they'll name other things that are projects 50 times as big as ours. And they say ours is their favorite. And, we binge watched the whole series and me and my wife, we're going to go binge watch it again. Yeah, that's rewarding to know that these stories that you're passionate about, that mean a lot to you, other people in their homes, on their couch, are binge watching for hours and hours late into the night. I think that's rewarding to know that I have done something worthwhile for more than just myself.
So we're talking a lot about Vindication, the series that's out there, and recently, not long ago, the latest version of that premiered right here in Denton, Texas, at the Campus Theater, one of the longtime old school theaters here. I had the cast here. Talk a little bit about that night for you that helped kind of launch this latest version that you've released.
Yeah, it was very special. When we did season 4, which that was again 18 month to 2-year task, we never had a premiere for it. We didn't know when it was going to be released, and there was a lot of back and forth of when it was going to happen. So we never had a chance to get together and celebrate the work that was done and the final product.
Mm-hmm.
So with this upcoming, the new one, which we may talk about a little bit more, which isn't a season, it's something different. It's kind of a standalone super episode, special episode is what I call it, to get everyone together and see their faces and take pictures and hugs and share stories and get to watch it for the first time together. That was really special, mainly because we didn't get to do that for the previous season.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the super episode. Kind of, did you put that together to kind of tie up the loose ends of the storyline, plot line, and characters, and pull everything together just to make it nice and neat?
Well, as you probably heard throughout this conversations, a lot of times the finances and the funds are what make determining decisions on things.
Yeah.
And so we had completed season 4. It had not been released yet. The show still had a lot of momentum. People were excited about it. We didn't know when was season 4 going to come out? How well is it going to be received? Is it the best season we've ever done, or is it the worst? Like, are people going to feel like, oh, Vindication's losing steam? The game is up, right? Their method of doing things has lost. Maybe that's going to happen with season 4. So it's not a spot to say, let's greenlight a season 5 and just get started on that. It's a big investment. It's 2 years of work and many episodes, all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, we have this momentum. We don't want to let it go so that when season 4 comes out, there's this dry spell for 3 or 4 years that nobody has anything to watch.
Yeah.
So the idea was presented to me, what about taking kind of the equivalent of about 2 episodes and creating into this standalone product, something that could be the very final piece of Vindication, or could just be one item in the, in the menu, in the history of the show, or just something that fits into a spot. So, so that was the idea. It was come to me and it says, I'm going to be a movie. I'm like, if we don't have movie money, then I don't want to call this a movie.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not just a single episode, that would be a part of a season. So what you watched at the premiere is what we came up with. It was also intended to be something that people who have never watched the series could sit down and watch it and get kind of an idea of what Vindication is about. And so early on in the story, we kind of introduce our characters just a little bit so that you kind of know who each person is, even if you've never watched before.
Yep.
And then the idea is that if people watch it and enjoy it, then they'll say, oh, I want to go back and watch the whole series.
Yep.
It's funny when one of our streaming partners, Angel Studios, before anything goes on their network, they have their viewers kind of vote on it. They call them guild members. So they get kind of to watch and then they can leave comments. And so many of the comments were like, man, this would make a great series. Or, wow, I wish I wouldn't, I like what you did, but it's just not that great because I wish that I knew more about these characters prior to this show starting. And we're going, well, yeah, we have 18 hours of prior story that you could go watch. They just didn't realize it was part of a series. So anyway, that's what the super special episode is.
So if that wraps up Vindication, what's next on your horizon? Have you been thinking about or developing or pondering what's out there? I mean, Vindication is not the only product that you've done, a filmmaker, but what would you like to do next, or have you given that thought?
Yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot of things throughout the process of doing Vindication. And so I asked myself if I could start over with a clean slate, just a blank sheet of paper, a blank whiteboard.
Yeah.
Having learned all of this, what would I do? And so that's, called developing a series, another one. So I've got another one that's in the early development stage. It has me more excited than maybe any of the Vindication stuff ever did. But it does come down to someone, with the resources believing in it and saying like, yeah, let's make this happen. On the investment side to do that. I'm not one that's going to push it. I'm not going to knock on doors. And I kind of feel like, hey, I've shown what we can do, what our team can do. Many of them would come along to this next project, but here's the other idea. So that's out there.
Yeah.
The other thing that I am doing, this is a big one for me right now. I fell in love with the casting process in doing this.
Really?
You get to meet people, these gifted people. They take your words that are on paper and bring them to life. And that part of the process is always so rewarding, but also fun for me. But I also got kind of a feel for what the casting world looks like right now, what software platforms people use and how the process works. And so with my IT background, I have launched a platform called ActorBay, kind of like eBay, but it's ActorBay.
Okay.
That does the things that are in the casting world, but also adds a whole lot of new opportunities and new things that are missing in the popular platforms that are out there. So we've had signups are in the thousands of actors that are on there. They can put themselves on tape and get seen almost instantly by professionals all over the world. And we're just continually rolling out new things that I love. What's really cool, if I'll give my one plug about ActorBay,
sure,
is sometimes I get invited to classrooms to come talk about the industry, and it'll be acting classes. And the question always comes up, hey, how can I get involved in the industry? Well, the answer used to be, well, go volunteer as a background, and then maybe at some point you'll get a speaking role, and then maybe you get an agent, and they can get you opportunity, this kind of long process that seems tedious. Now I can say, you can go on Actor Bay right now, sign up for a free account. You go find a side, which is basically a small snippet of a script, record yourself doing it, uploading it, and within an hour's time, you are getting seen by people all over, whether they're other actors, filmmakers, casting directors, whoever. They're seeing you on tape to know what you can do. Wow. And we even have a feedback feature, so they can type in and say, hey, you may want to work on this, you may want to do this. And the actors who have been a part of it are just loving it. So, and to me, it's fun. So even when I'm not actively working on a project, I'm getting to see and meet new actors and see them perform and do what they love and what they're, share their talents. So anyway, that's kind of how it works. But that's a big part of what I'm doing right now too.
Wow. That's fascinating. So what do you think's the biggest thing you learned about yourself through the Vindication process? Like you said, that was really like a 10-year process from the beginning, but now on the other side of it, you've talked about this new love on Actor Bay, but for you as a filmmaker, what do you think that you've learned the most about yourself in how you approach life or your work?
Yeah, well, that's a tough question. My goodness.
I like to save the best hard one for the last. Man,
let's self-introspective sort of thing. So, all right, I'm just going to shoot with the two that come to mind. We'll see if they work or not. There's a little bit that says, oh, wow, I can actually do this. Because there's people who like what I see. They say it's their favorite show. There's always a bit of uncertainty, Brian, are people going to like your podcast? You don't know. You
absolutely don't know.
So as a filmmaker, I'm like pouring out my ideas and writing and storytelling and music and all those things. And to hear back, well, people do actually like it. That's, I can do a good job at this because I never went to film school, don't have any background. I've never been in a theater class. I'm a tech guy. Like that's my thing. So to do it, you learn that okay, I guess I actually have some talent in this. Yeah. I'll let me sidetrack just a tad bit and then I'll give you my other one.
Sure.
We were filming episode 3 of season 1. So we're pretty early in the process. And we were at a home, we were filming a scene, and I call cut and I turn around and there's a room of 15 people, our crew members all standing around. And I started explaining to them, I go, okay guys, so the reason I'm doing this is I feel like we just need to get a little bit more on this side. I was explaining to them what I was doing. Yeah. And one of the crew members, he goes, Jarod, just so you know, I don't think you have to explain to us anymore why you're doing stuff. We all know that you get what you're doing. And kind of everybody in the room started nodding their head. And so that was a moment for me where up until then, I'm like, I need to, I'm an imposter sitting in this director chair. I need to try to justify why I'm doing everything. And instead in that moment, it was like, hey, we all believe in you. We know what you're doing. Or we know that you know what you're doing. You don't have to explain it to us. Wow. So that would be my number one. The number 2, and it's something I never knew about myself, but I've kind of learned, is I'm very even-tempered, right? You hear on film sets, like these directors going off and losing it, and they're these combustible individuals. Yeah. And I just, that doesn't happen to me. People are like, man, Jarod, when you're on set, you are so calm and just collected. We've been, I don't know how many hours, probably close to 180 shooting days we have done for all this. Nobody could ever point to a time that Jarod lost his cool or, had to storm off or go take a timeout. Just never has happened. Wow. And so I wouldn't, prior to doing any Vindication, I would have never thought that about myself. I thought, no, I'm pretty combustible. And I said, if I look calm and collected, you don't realize what's going on inside because I am a mess and, just all over the place. And so I guess I learned that I'm able to keep it under control, even in very tense and high stress situations.
Well, Jarod, you're doing fantastic work. I mean, I got to see it up close with the Vindication series, and I know you've got a lot of good things coming ahead. Again, people find Vindication series on your streaming platform, but fascinating story, and I know you've got great work ahead of you, and I just appreciate you being on the show here today.
Yeah, well, thank you for at least this time pretending to be interested. No. I could tell you were. So
I'm fascinated.
It's easy and fun to talk about.
All right. Good luck to you down the road, and we'll catch up again. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Built for This. Be sure to follow Built for This on your favorite listening platform and share it with a friend. Join me on the next episode when I will share entertaining stories of inspiration, encouragement, and purpose-driven experiences. What are you built for? Built for This is produced and recorded by Heart Media DFW.